This is Business Tonight. Coming up, Nigeria State Oil Corporation remits $2.3 billion to Federation account. Japan seeks improved bilateral trade relations with Nigeria. Senegal attracts almost $10 billion in Eurobond bids. And oil prices trade high over United States shale gas hype. I am Yemisi Lanredo. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, says it remitted $2.3 billion to the Federation account last year. The corporation also says $52 million was remitted for debt repayment, while $1.7 billion was used to finance joint venture operations. Total export receipts of $476 million was recorded last December from the sale of crude oil and gas, as against $201 million a month earlier. According to NNPC, the transfer was a first-line charge to guarantee continuous flow of revenue stream to the Federation account. Well, Nigeria has lost United States as a major market of crude export. That's coming from the Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachiku, at the CERAWeek conference in Houston, United States, following the increase in the production of shale oil. America's import of oil from Nigeria dropped to zero in 2015 from an all-time high of 1.31 million barrels per day. Nigerian crude is now favorite for the Asian market, as oil output averaged 2.07 million in February by 20,000 barrels per day, up from January. Japan wants to help Nigeria with its diversification agenda. The country is seeking improved bilateral ties with Nigeria in areas that could help develop its non-oil sector. Lara Folayo reports.
Nigeria's economic ties with Japan date back in time. Trade volume between the two countries was valued at $5.3 billion in 2015. The country is now in talks with Nigeria's fiscal authorities on supporting the non-oil sector's growth.
Since Nigeria has been, in the short term, struggling to recover from the fallout from the plummeting oil prices, and in the long term, facing demographic challenges, which is a steep uptrend in working-age population, and job creating and value-adding Japanese quality investment could make a great contribution here. We therefore try to encourage the entry of more Japanese companies in this country, as well as enhance Japanese-Nigerian commercial ties in general. In view of the conventional wisdom, this is time for caution. It is all the more noteworthy that we have seen zero exit of major Japanese companies from Nigeria, and instead have seen new ones keep coming.
Nigeria's finance minister highlights areas where Nigeria needs Japan's proposed support. The Nigerian government says ongoing economic reforms are already helping to better make the nation an investment destination of choice.
As at the moment, it's only we are buying cars from Japan. We don't know that we can produce or export cement to them, even in a processed form for them to have, so that we can add value to it. Even our own rice, which we have the land abundant, we can produce it, like transportation and technology, machineries, to aid our agriculture. The moment we are doing this one, we will even have a favorable balance of trade in favor of Nigeria than them.
It feels Japan's assistance in areas like infrastructure will further boost investment growth in the country.
A lot of opportunities in both countries, and we want each country to take advantage of it. Nigeria being the largest economy, the largest market in Africa, and Japan is known for its technological growth, for everything that is available. You know, for those of us who have been there, we know what is there, and we know very well that Nigeria stands to benefit a lot from the technology of Japan. And let's take, for example, if Japanese companies are in Nigeria, that is exactly what we are looking after. What we are looking for, they will create industry. The industry will create employment. They pay taxes to Nigeria government, and the tax can be used for development. And, you know, employment will be created. Besides that, Nigerians who work in such companies will be able to learn, be able to acquire that skill that is required.
The Japan Investment Corporation Agency has an existing $76 million fund in support for vaccine procurement in the fight against polio in Nigeria. The immunization support scheme for children under 5 is believed to have contributed to Nigeria attaining a near polio-free status.
Well, experts want interest rate cut to fast-track economic prosperity through the small and medium enterprises in Nigeria. They also say there is need to create institutional support for SME growth and ultimately generate more job opportunities for the youth. They pointed out that if Nigeria can operate a single-digit interest rate, it will go a long way to stimulate developmental activities in the sector on a long-term basis. Well, let's talk SME development. Managing partner, Nerilus International, Akinwande Akisolere, joins me in the studio. Many thanks for your time, Akinwande. Well, let's begin from that point where experts are talking about interest rate cut. Should that be the beginning of SME development in Nigeria?
Oh, okay. Well, there have been several SME intervention ways, both from the government and from institution perspective. However, considering the one-digit interest rate is going to be a great cushion for small business owners, because one of the major issues that confront SME today is actually the loan rate. So businesses are not able to get sufficient funding for the projects they want to implement and for the new initiatives they want to put in their business. So take, for example, the Lagos State Trust Fund that was set aside for small businesses, that it's at about 5% interest rate. It was oversubscribed in the sense that there are a lot of small businesses that still have their application queued up on their portal because they need the support. We have several SMEs in Nigeria. Last year, just like in the last 5 years, SME contributes about 48% to our GDP. And we still have over 12 million young people that are unemployed in Nigeria at the moment. So if those people have access to all of those fundings, they are able to set up their businesses. Those that have businesses already, they are able to grow their initiatives, when they have access to these single-digit interest rates.
Akinwande, yes, we must talk about the Lagos State Trust Fund, which I'm also aware of. But just before that, my main point is, yes, you need funding, but you must have a great idea on the table before you could get that funding that is needed. And I believe any great idea would definitely sell itself and get that appropriate funding it needs. From your experience, you've worked with some SMEs and you've worked also with multinationals. From your experience, have you been able to see those great ideas on table?
Oh, okay. So Nigerians are innovative people, to be candid. I've seen people come up with different concepts. I've seen people born out of, people that grew up from the, places you call slum or places that you call a very low or poor background, come up with innovative ideas. Some are born out of maybe their pains and their passions. But to be candid, Nigerians are very, very innovative. So one of the new ideas that one of my SMEs just started is, they call it SymbiBot. And what SymbiBot does is to take your, the SSE students through a step-by-step way of answering WAEC questions. So it's also applicable for JAMB candidates. So they are able to have a bot that takes them through the tutorial. Okay, this question is how to solve it, is how to go about, and very innovative.
But is it viable?
So
that's another question.
Yeah, it's viable in the sense that when you look at the number of people that write UHEMI every year, you look at the number of people that write WAEC every year, and a number of these candidates, they don't have access to teachers who are qualified to take them through the required, classes for them to be able to pass these examinations. So having a bot that takes you through such class, it's viable. So the question now is, okay, how can we scale this? So, and scaling is of course, they need funding. They need some funding there. And, some other creative ideas that have come by, working with small businesses.
Well, funding seems to be the major challenge when it comes to SME development, but I'm very sure there must be other challenges. Well, we'll talk about funding and how best SMEs can access funding for their growth. But we'll talk about that when we return on Business Tonight. You're watching Business Tonight after the break. SME development, SME intervention has been the focus on Business Tonight, and I've been speaking with Akinwande Akisulire, a managing partner, Nerilos International. Yes, Akinwande, funding is a major challenge anywhere and in any part of the world. But what do you think should be the solution when it comes to funding? I know there are so many venture capital that, yes, they may be interested in funding some SMEs, but when they think about profits at the end of the day, they draw back. But you've seen some experiences shared with us.
Oh, okay. So there is a peculiar client of mine, that is into printing business. I won't want to give so much detail about the business. And so when they started out, because they were able to incorporate technology into printing, and they got some funding from a venture capital firm, and they started out. So today, to cut the long story short, they are actually in pain because they are worried that majority of the shares in their company has been acquired by this firm. And the question is, are they really as profitable as they anticipated that they're going to be? No. But these guys that came up with a very viable initiative are at the brink of losing their business to, some founders. So this is what I typically advise, as small business owners. When you're starting out, if you're able to take advantage of, funds from your family and your friends, if you don't have credible, you don't have good character, you don't have integrity, you might not be able to assess that anyway. But if you're able to assess it, it's good to always begin with that. When you're able to get funding from friends, from family, and you start out. So as you build structures, build systems, and you grow your business, you are able to generate enough fund to push your business to the next phase. Because now, beyond the funding, there are some other critical issues, some critical underlying issues that affect SMEs. Because from my experience working with small businesses, what I realize is that when a business have all of the factors in place, it's going to grow. You might call it organic growth, but it's definitely going to grow without the aid of any form of external financial intervention. Sure. But that is when you have all your structures in place. But when you ask me today, an average Nigerian or an average person that wants to start a business or a small business in Nigeria, they don't go the length to acquire knowledge. Particular knowledge, knowledge focused on their area of business. Yes, then, business knowledge, basic business knowledge. How do I develop a business plan? You might not even need capital to be able to acquire such knowledge. To acquire such knowledge. If you invest first in knowledge, how do you develop a business plan? You understand simple management accounting. You understand, financial accounting. You understand what's profit, what's loss, what's the cash flow statement like, all of that. And you're able to master, how to keep your books. Now, these are things that save small businesses from expending money. On areas that are just draining their purses.
That was what prompted my earlier question, that is funding the first point of call? And I'm happy you're telling me knowledge is basic. Knowledge is key about what you need to be able to put your business in the right perspective. All right, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time. Akinwande Akisulire, Managing Partner, Nerilos International. Appreciate your time. Well, the Securities and Exchange Commission is ready to commence audit of Wando's PLC's account. Well, this comes after a lawsuit initiated by the latter to stall the investigation was struck out by the court. The SEC had received petitions from 2 shareholders of Wando and a whistleblower alleging financial mismanagement within the company. SEC Acting Director General Abdul Zubair has assured that investors will be protected and audit will be thorough and transparent. Deloitte Nigeria has been appointed to proceed with the forensic audit. Equities trading at the Nigerian stock market halted its two-day upswing, shutting the market on a negative note Wednesday. Effiong Gekop brings us details.
Dangote Cement was a big value loser at the stock market this Wednesday, and it dragged down transactions in red. Dangote Cement lost 10 naira in price, which was calculated above 3%. The market index dropped by 1.5 of a percentage point, and that resulted in losses for many other firms. The heaviest loser was Unity Bank. It came down by nearly 10%. Wapik in the insurance markets was down by 6.45%. Unique Business Holdings lost 5% in its price, and Sterling Bank was down 4.26%. Etana Oil in the energy markets gained over 10% in price. Japol Oil in the maritime sector gained 8%. Hallmark Insurance 6%. Name Insurance 5%, and AG Leventis 4.92%. Effiong Gekop, TVC News at the Stock Exchange.
Well, Kellogg's Nigeria continues to take its best offering to the Nigerian market. This time, it showcased and shared one of its best with TVC's audience on Wednesday in Lagos.
Breakfast is one of the most important meals of the day, particularly a nutritious one with Kellogg's. Today, after an amazing time on TVC's Your View program, the live audience were treated to a nutritious breakfast at the TVC garden with Kellogg's cornflakes and some Kellogg's goodie bags taken home.
When children used to say Kellogg's time is breakfast time, no, I used to think the Kellogg's time is breakfast is mainly for children, but I enjoyed it. It's easy to make, it's easy to go. I think it's full of energy with the milk. It can take me a long day before my dinner.
I feel energized, I feel stimulated, and I feel nice.
It's my first time to actually taste Kellogg's, and I was surprised, I was so amazed with the taste.
It's as good as the foreign one that I've tasted before. It's very delicious, very okay, good for breakfast. And I can go ahead to recommend it for every homes.
Kellogg's cornflakes has bigger flakes, it is brighter in color, better fortified with 11 vitamins and minerals, and has a delicious crunchy taste.
Kellogg's Nigeria is same with Kellogg's all over the world, but it has its own different because this is in Nigeria, but it is in Nigeria with the most recent equipment, the most sophisticated equipment in the cereal industry that is being used to produce cereal, having it installed here. So we have a very big opportunity or privilege having that machine installed here.
It is now produced in Nigeria at the Kellogg's Company First Factory, located at Ibejuleki, Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, I had a chat with the area marketing manager of Kellogg's, and he told me that since its foray into the market, it has enjoyed a healthy competition.
The idea behind Kellogg's range of products that is very expensive is for a certain class of people in the society. But our coming into the business, we made it obvious that no, Kellogg's is for everybody. If you can even see in our recent rollout of products or SKUs, we've produced the one that even the common man on the street can buy for as low as 15 naira. You can afford it. So the idea is that we know we have brands, competitor brands, but we've come into the market because we are big. The name is already there. But now we've come in to reach out to every person in all categories of life. For both the very rich and both the very low downtrodden in the red line areas can afford it.
Well, he also spoke to me about the benefits of the investment to the Nigerian market.
That is a long-term thing we are looking at. We're looking at in the next couple of years, those materials will be produced here. We're already working with IITA to develop the right species of grains or maize, basically, which is one of our major raw materials, which we'll give out to farmers, which we're already talking to, so that they can grow and supply us. But as it is of now, we are importing, which we hope to stop in the short term. In the near future, we'll stop importation because then we would have been able to develop the right seedlings, which will give to farmers, cooperative societies, farming societies that we're already talking to, we're already working with, so that they can grow and supply us. Then going forward, every of our raw material will be sourced in-house.
Let's go to Senegal now. It has attracted almost $10 billion for a $2.2 billion Eurobond. Reports say the country received about $9.5 billion of bids by the time final pricing was decided. $1.2 billion of notes were sold with an average life of 9 years and a separate $1 billion 29-year tranche. Yields on the country's $500 million of bonds due in 2024 rose 1 basis point to 5.4%. Senegal's government plans to use at least $200 million of the proceeds to buy back some of its dollar securities maturing in 2021. Well, Rwanda's economy is expected to grow by 6.5% this year, up from a projected 5.2% last year. Credit to the private sector is predicted to also grow by 13% this year. Rwanda's central bank plans to maintain an accommodative monetary policy stance in order to uphold financing of the economy by the banking sector. The country's inflation is expected to be around 5% in 2018, slightly up from 4.9% last year. Economic recovery and increased activity is expected to drive increased lending in 2018. Rwandan economy booming. You may think of a place to want to enjoy your holiday. Try Rwanda. Well, crude oil prices trade high Wednesday as United States shale gas hype takes hold of energy market. At the London market, Brent crude steadies at $65 a barrel. And for the OPEC basket price, the price there moves up to $62 a barrel. With that, it's a wrap on Business Tonight. Many thanks for your time. I am Yemisi Lanredo.